India's evolution from an outsourcing destination to a global innovation leader has reshaped the dynamics of the global technology landscape, and its implications for America are both profound and irreversible. No longer is India simply the back office of the world. It is now a tech and innovation powerhouse, home to cutting-edge startups, world-class engineers, and a digital infrastructure that rivals the most advanced economies. This transformation is not incidental, it is intentional, strategic, and accelerating. For the United States, whose dominance in the 21st century hinges on technological supremacy and innovation-led growth, India's ascent is not just welcome, it is essential. Over the past 2 decades, India has built a vast and highly skilled tech workforce. More than 4 million professionals operate in the information technology and software sectors, many of whom are trained at institutions like the Indian Institutes of Technology, IITs, which are recognized globally for producing top-tier talent. This talent does not merely serve local industries, it powers the global digital economy. American companies, from Google and Microsoft to IBM and Intel, have established large R&D centers in India, not just for cost efficiency, but for access to elite problem solvers and creators. Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, Arvind Krishna, these are not exceptions. They are symbols of a broader Indian presence in America's tech command centers. The very CEO defining the future of U.S. tech giants are of Indian origin, and they bring with them a bridge that connects the innovation ecosystems of both nations. India's startup ecosystem is also redefining global trends, with over 100 unicorns and thousands of emerging companies. India is now the third largest startup hub in the world. These startups are not limited to e-commerce or mobile apps. They are deeply involved in artificial intelligence, biotech, clean energy, fintech, space tech, and cybersecurity. As America seeks to maintain its edge in global innovation amid rising competition from China, India becomes a critical partner. Collaborative innovation is not a matter of charity or diplomacy, it's a necessity. U.S. companies are investing billions in Indian startups, and American venture capital is deeply embedded in the Indian tech ecosystem. This isn't just about India growing, it's about both countries advancing together. Moreover, India's digital transformation is happening at an unprecedented scale. With over 1.2 billion people enrolled in its biometric digital ID system, Aadhaar, and one of the world's fastest growing digital payment ecosystems, India is setting global standards for digital governance and inclusion. The Unified Payments Interface, UPI, revolutionized how money moves in India and is now being adopted or studied in countries around the world. American firms are deeply invested in this transition, not just financially, but strategically. Companies like Google and Amazon are working closely with Indian institutions to build scalable, secure, and inclusive tech platforms. As India leads in frugal innovation, doing more with less, American companies benefit from adapting these cost-effective, scalable technologies for emerging and even developed markets. India is also investing heavily in future-defining technologies. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, and quantum computing are at the core of India's next-gen vision. Government initiatives like Digital India, Make in India, and Startup India are not just slogans, they are billion-dollar campaigns fostering innovation, manufacturing, and R&D. These are areas where America must maintain dominance to secure its economic and geopolitical future. And to do so, it must deepen its collaboration with India, whether it is AI governance, semiconductor manufacturing, or cybersecurity. India is no longer a junior partner, but a necessary co-architect of global tech standards. Furthermore, in the global race for critical technology supply chains, India is emerging as a key alternative to China. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed the fragility of over-reliance on Chinese manufacturing. In response, American tech firms are diversifying, and India is the first name on the list. From chip manufacturing to electronics assembly and green energy components, India is quickly becoming the go-to destination. With government-backed initiatives, favorable investment policies, and an expanding skilled labor force, India is uniquely positioned to replace China in many segments vital to America's tech ambitions. Education and talent mobility are also tightening the India-US innovation bond. Hundreds of thousands of Indian students study in American universities, particularly in STEM fields. This talent pipeline feeds directly into U.S. industries, strengthening innovation capacity and reinforcing people-to-people ties. Indian origin professionals lead R&D labs, build startups, and teach in top American universities. This diaspora is not just a workforce, it is a reservoir of influence and insight that binds the tech futures of both nations. What makes this partnership even more critical is that it is built on mutual respect, complementary strengths, and democratic values. Unlike China, whose tech policies often clash with U.S. principles of openness, transparency, and privacy, India shares a commitment to digital freedom and intellectual collaboration. This ideological alignment makes cooperation smoother, more sustainable, and far less vulnerable to political risk. In an era where technology defines national power, having a like-minded partner is not just strategic, it's existential. In essence, America's technological future, its capacity to compete, to innovate, to lead cannot be separated from India's trajectory. The talent, the markets, the digital platforms, the innovation mindset all converge in India in a way that no other nation offers. For America to shape the 21st century on its own terms, its partnership with India must not be seen as optional or symbolic. It is now central to its national interest, its economic vitality, and its global standing. In an increasingly multipolar world where strategic tensions are intensifying, especially between the United States and China, India has emerged as the most crucial geopolitical counterbalance. The future of American influence, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, hinges on its ability to build strong alliances with partners that can withstand Chinese aggression and offer a credible alternative to Beijing's expansionist ambitions. Among all possible allies, only India possesses the scale, location, military potential, and strategic independence to counter China effectively, not as a subordinate power, but as a sovereign heavyweight in its own right. This reality is transforming the way Washington views New Delhi, and it explains why America's future global posture now increasingly depends on India. Geographically, India's position is of immense value. Nestled in the heart of South Asia and commanding the Indian Ocean, through which a vast portion of global trade flows, India occupies a critical position in the world's most contested geopolitical arena. As China expands its maritime influence through the South China Sea and aggressively invests in ports and infrastructure through the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), India stands in direct opposition. From blocking Chinese advances in the Indian Ocean region, to resisting Beijing's control over Himalayan borders, India is on the front lines of every major regional tension that could spiral into global conflict. For the United States, which seeks to maintain freedom of navigation, open sea lanes, and democratic partnerships across Asia, India is no longer a secondary player. It is an irreplaceable strategic pillar. Militarily, India has become a formidable power. With one of the world's largest standing armies, a nuclear arsenal, a blue water navy, and a rapidly modernizing air force, India is not merely defending its borders but projecting strength across the region. This is vital for U.S. strategic planners, especially as China becomes more assertive in areas like Taiwan, the South China Sea, and the Himalayan borderlands. India has already demonstrated its willingness to stand firm against Chinese aggression, particularly during the Galwan Valley clash in 2020, where Indian troops pushed back against PLA incursions. That act of defiance sent a clear message: India will not be bullied, and it signaled to Washington that India could be trusted not just to defend its own sovereignty, but to contribute to broader regional security. Furthermore, India's growing partnerships with other U.S. allies amplify its importance in Washington's grand strategy. The Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, commonly known as the Quad, which brings together the U.S., India, Japan, and Australia, is now at the heart of America's Indo-Pacific policy. India's active participation in joint military exercises, intelligence sharing initiatives, and maritime surveillance has turned it into a central actor in countering Chinese ambitions. Unlike other allies who remain dependent on the U.S. security umbrella, India brings independent capabilities to the table. It does not just receive support, it gives it. This autonomy is exactly what the U.S. needs to build a sustainable balance of power in Asia. In economic terms, India also serves as a viable alternative to China. As American firms and policymakers seek to reduce dependency on Chinese manufacturing and supply chains, India is emerging as a preferred destination. Initiatives like Make in India and India's incentives for semiconductor production, defense manufacturing, and technology assembly are aligning perfectly with America's China Plus One strategy. This isn't simply about diversifying trade, it's about decoupling from a hostile authoritarian regime and coupling with a democratic, rules-based partner. By supporting India's rise, the United States is investing in a long-term counterweight that can challenge China's economic monopoly over crucial industries and regions. Moreover, India and the United States share a deepening convergence of interests on key international issues. Whether it is freedom of navigation, cybersecurity, counterterrorism, climate change, or the stability of supply chains, India is increasingly aligned with American goals. This alignment, however, is not rooted in dependency. It is rooted in shared concerns and sovereign strength. India is not a vassal state that follows orders. It is a confident, independent power that collaborates on equal terms. For America, this is a strategic blessing. Unlike some alliances based on coercion or transactional interests, the U.S.-India partnership is grounded in mutual respect and shared responsibility. That makes it more resilient and adaptable in the face of future crises. There is also a symbolic dimension to this partnership that cannot be ignored. In the global battle between democratic governance and authoritarian control, India represents the democratic counterimage to China's surveillance-driven, centrally planned model. Despite its challenges and imperfections, India remains a functioning democracy with open elections, a vibrant press, and an independent judiciary. Its success undermines the narrative promoted by Beijing that authoritarianism is the future and democracy is in decline. For the United States, which often frames its foreign policy in terms of defending democratic values, India's very existence as a large, pluralistic, and stable democracy offers a powerful ideological counter to China's influence, especially in the global south. Finally, India's strategic patience and long-term vision make it an ideal partner for a sustainable U.S. global strategy. India is not interested in reckless interventions or adventurism, nor is it beholden to superpower manipulation. It acts in its own interest, but those interests are increasingly overlapping with America's. Whether it's resisting Chinese infrastructure encroachments in neighboring countries or countering Beijing's digital authoritarianism, India is acting as a force of regional stability and global balance. In summary, America's ability to counterbalance China economically, militarily, and ideologically relies heavily on its partnership with India. Without India's cooperation, credibility, and capabilities, Washington's Indo-Pacific strategy would be hollow. With India as a partner, however, the U.S. has a real shot at maintaining a multipolar, democratic, and open international order. The stakes are high, and the message is clear. America cannot shape the future alone. It needs India, not just as an ally, but as a co-anchor of a new, balanced global power structure. India's rapidly expanding consumer market is emerging as one of the most vital arenas for global economic growth, and its importance to the United States cannot be overstated. As American companies look beyond traditional markets and seek to reduce their dependence on China, India stands out as the most promising destination. With a population of over 1, regret ever forward being a growing middle class, rising disposable incomes, increasing internet penetration, and a massive appetite for consumer goods, digital services, and technology, India is no longer a future market. It is the present and the next big engine of global demand. For the United States, whose economic prosperity is closely tied to global trade and investment opportunities, the Indian consumer base represents both a challenge and an unprecedented opportunity. At the core of this transformation is India's rapidly expanding middle class, projected to reach nearly 1 billion people within the next decade. This segment is becoming more urban, more aspirational, and more connected than ever before. They are demanding better products, more choices, and higher quality services across sectors ranging from healthcare and education to electronics, automobiles, luxury goods, and digital entertainment. American businesses, which are already known for delivering quality, innovation, and scale, are uniquely positioned to meet this demand. Brands like Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Ford, and Coca-Cola have already made deep inroads into Indian markets, and yet the surface has barely been scratched. The scale of opportunity is such that even marginal increases in market penetration translate into billions in revenue. Moreover, the Indian government's push for economic liberalization, digitization, and entrepreneurship has created a more conducive environment for foreign investment. Reforms in foreign direct investment, FDI regulations, the implementation of a unified goods and services tax (GST), and policies like Digital India and Startup India have made the Indian market more streamlined and business-friendly. These reforms have not only encouraged domestic growth, but have signaled to global investors, especially those in the U.S., that India is serious about becoming a global economic leader. The United States, recognizing this shift, has intensified its economic engagement with India, fostering bilateral trade deals, encouraging private sector collaboration, and promoting joint ventures in high-growth areas. One of the clearest signs of this deepening economic relationship is the increasing volume of U.S.-India trade. Bilateral trade in goods and services has surpassed $200 billion annually and continues to grow, with both nations setting ambitious targets to double that figure. U.S. companies are no longer looking at India simply as an outsourcing hub or a source of cheap labor. They are looking at India as a full-scale consumer economy. This means designing products tailored to Indian tastes, creating supply chains that reach Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, and leveraging digital platforms to access customers across the socio-economic spectrum. Technology and e-commerce are among the sectors where this opportunity is most visible. India has over 800 million internet users and is adding millions more every year, making it one of the largest digital ecosystems in the world. Smartphones, mobile data, and digital payments have become ubiquitous, and with government support for cashless transactions through platforms like UPI, Unified Payments Interface, a massive digital consumer economy has emerged. American tech giants such as Amazon and Walmart, via Flipkart, are competing fiercely to capture market share in India's booming online retail space. For them, India is not only a source of current revenue, it is the battlefield for future dominance in global e-commerce. In the entertainment and media sector, India's young and diverse population is consuming digital content at record levels. Platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Disney Plus Hotstar are producing India-specific content to capture this growing audience. The cultural openness and multilingual diversity of the Indian market make it a unique testing ground for content innovation, with lessons and models that can be exported globally. This cultural economic synergy is not just enriching for consumers, it is profitable for U.S. companies and essential for their global competitiveness. Beyond technology and media, sectors like healthcare, renewable energy, defense, finance, and education are also expanding rapidly in India and offer fertile ground for U.S. companies. American pharmaceutical and med tech firms are exploring partnerships to deliver affordable healthcare solutions to Indian consumers. American universities and edtech companies are collaborating with Indian institutions to tap into the country's enormous demand for quality education. Green energy companies are investing in India's solar and wind energy sectors as the country moves aggressively towards sustainable development. The strategic dimension of this economic relationship lies in the concept of China Plus One. As the U.S. and its allies reassess their economic overdependence on China, India is being positioned as the most viable alternative. It offers not just a large and growing market, but also political stability, democratic governance, and a commitment to intellectual property rights. American manufacturers are increasingly viewing India as a potential base for production, supply chain diversification, and R&D, especially in areas where China has dominated for years, such as electronics, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. Furthermore, India's economic rise contributes to global economic stability. something the United States desperately needs in an increasingly uncertain world. A prosperous India means a stronger Indo-Pacific region, greater demand for U.S. exports, and a strategic partner whose economic strength complements its geopolitical importance. In a time of global disruptions, wars, pandemics, inflation, climate crises, the U.S. must anchor its long-term economic strategy to resilient, growing, and friendly economies. India checks all those boxes. In essence, the rise of India's consumer market represents not just a business opportunity for the United States, but a foundational pillar of its future economic strength. America's global corporations, investment firms, and policymakers all recognize that ignoring India would mean ceding the most dynamic growth market of the 21st century to others. The U.S. economy has always thrived on innovation, scale, and global outreach. With India ascending rapidly on all these fronts, it is now a critical partner in ensuring that America's economic future remains secure, competitive, and prosperous. In a world where authoritarian regimes are gaining strength and the global democratic order is under threat, the relationship between the United States and India takes on a far deeper meaning than trade agreements or defense pacts. At its core, it is a partnership rooted in shared values, democracy, pluralism, freedom of speech, the rule of law, and civil liberties. While many nations have aligned with America out of strategic convenience or economic necessity, India's alignment comes from a deeper philosophical foundation. As the world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy come together, they form a vital axis in preserving the global democratic architecture. In the 21st century, where power struggles are no longer just about geography but about ideology, the United States needs India not only as an ally, but as a fellow guardian of democratic ideals. India, despite its internal challenges, stands as a rare example of a diverse, multi-religious, multi-ethnic society that holds regular elections, maintains an independent judiciary, and protects the right of its citizens to protest, speak freely, and participate in shaping their government. In contrast, China's authoritarian model, characterized by surveillance, censorship, and one-party control, has gained traction in parts of the world seeking fast economic growth without democratic accountability. Beijing aggressively exports its model of digital authoritarianism, debt-trap diplomacy, and state-controlled infrastructure to developing countries. For America to effectively counter this rising influence, it cannot rely solely on military might or economic sanctions. It must present a viable democratic alternative. India is that alternative. What makes India's role unique is not just its democratic framework, but its resilience. Despite political polarization, occasional unrest, and socio-economic disparities, Indian democracy continues to function. Millions of people cast their votes in massive national and state elections with transparency and integrity. Opposition parties operate freely, civil society remains active, and citizens engage in public discourse through a robust, albeit sometimes noisy, media. This ongoing commitment to democratic norms serves as a counter-narrative to the growing belief that democracy is incompatible with large, diverse populations or fast development. India shows the world that development and democracy are not mutually exclusive. They can coexist and even reinforce each other. For the United States, which is currently facing its own internal challenges, rising political division, concerns over electoral integrity, and threats to institutional trust, the partnership with India is both a reminder and reinforcement of democratic resilience, by aligning more deeply with a country that mirrors its foundational values, the U.S. also strengthens its credibility when promoting democracy abroad. It can point to India not just as a strategic partner, but as living proof that democracy is not a Western construct, but a universal aspiration that can thrive in the global South. Furthermore, the India-US democratic alignment has practical consequences on the world stage. Whether at the United Nations, the G20, or climate summits, both nations often find common ground on the importance of inclusive governance, human rights, and global cooperation. As authoritarian powers seek to reshape global norms to suit their interests, undermining freedom of the press, legitimizing internet blackouts, or rewriting rules of engagement, India and the U.S. can push back with a joint voice that commands respect. When India stands shoulder to shoulder with the U.S., it makes it harder for autocratic regimes to claim that democracy is a relic or a failed experiment. In the digital age, the battle for values has expanded to the virtual world. Issues like data privacy, online censorship, cyber espionage, and surveillance capitalism dominate the global agenda. China promotes a heavily controlled internet, monitored by the state and devoid of dissent. The United States advocates for an open and secure internet governed by transparency and individual rights. In this digital battlefield, India is critical. With over 800 million internet users, India's policies on data protection, encryption, social media regulation, and artificial intelligence will shape the norms for billions globally. By collaborating closely with India in setting democratic digital standards, the U.S. can help ensure that the future internet remains open, inclusive, and accountable. India's democratic credentials also play a pivotal role in shaping its relationships in the global South, where many nations are struggling between aligning with Western democracies or authoritarian financial backers. India offers a relatable model, one of post-colonial development, grassroots democracy, and economic growth. When India speaks in international forums, it does so with the credibility of having faced similar struggles to those still ongoing in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Its partnership with the U.S. therefore extends the reach of democratic influence into parts of the world where American voices may sometimes be viewed with skepticism or historical baggage. Moreover, the people-to-people ties between India and the U.S. further cement this democratic bridge. Over 4 million Indian Americans contribute to U.S. society in fields ranging from medicine and education to law and technology. This vibrant diaspora not only strengthens bilateral relations, but serves as a living embodiment of the shared values that underpin both nations. Indian origin legislators, entrepreneurs, and intellectuals bring a cross-cultural understanding that reinforces cooperation and mutual respect. These human links foster trust and understanding that no treaty or policy can replicate. Ultimately, in a world where ideological battles are shaping alliances and future power structures, the U.S. cannot afford to stand alone. It needs partners that not only share its interests, but also its ideals. India is one of the few nations with the size, influence, and democratic legitimacy to stand beside America in defending a rules-based international order. This partnership is not about one nation leading and another following. It is about leading a global movement toward freedom, dignity, and cooperation. In the grand scheme of global politics, empires rise and fall, but values endure. If the 20th century was shaped by wars of conquest and Cold War rivalries, the 21st century will be shaped by the competition between freedom and control, between transparency and oppression. In this struggle, the alliance between the United States and India is not just strategic, it is moral. It reflects the hope that even in a chaotic world, democracies can stand united, strong, and unwavering in their commitment to a freer, fairer world.